Cool. Well, I'll just start. It looks like most people are here, I think. So I'll start giving a little introduction to Pandion before we get started. In case anybody is unfamiliar with what we do. I'm Jordan Stobie. I'm the executive director for Pandion, and Anna Cruz Bautista is here as well. She's our program director. We're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit that provides community and skill building opportunities for music creators in Los Angeles and beyond to cultivate long-lasting lives in music. And through online workshops such as these, wellness support and scholarship based mentorship programs, PMF fosters a community where creators from diverse backgrounds and identities have the support, tools, and resilience they need to make music in an ever-evolving industry. And today we're doing a community conversation workshop, which is a new theme of workshop that we're running in 2025 and further. Um, and the point of these community conversation workshops is really to help foster more engagement in our community. So you're all unmuted today. So you can feel free to mute and unmute yourself freely. Talk amongst each other and with Lisa Dunn, who's here today and is going to be talking about metadata. That metadata is a topic that a lot of our community still have questions about. So we're really excited to have a discussion about that today. And Lisa is a member of our community and has been for a while. So we're really excited to have Lisa leading. And yeah, we just encourage you all to connect with each other and engage as much as you can. These communities are really nice no matter what stage you're at in your music career. I think these community conversation sessions are nice to just facilitate conversation. And even if music isn't something you're going for professionally, or if it is, we're open to questions and chats regardless of where you're at. So please feel free. This is a safe space. And we are going to be recording today, so we can post this replay for people who weren't able to make the live session. But if you end up sharing any sensitive information, just feel free to email us at hello@pandionmusicfoundation.org after the workshop, and we can make sure to cut any part out of the replay before posting that you request. So yeah, that's us. Thank you all for being here. And yeah, that's totally fine. I saw Sue, you said you're going to stay muted. That's totally fine. You've got dogs in the background. Um, but yeah, if you want to come on the call, just be respectful of other people. Don't try not to interrupt or anything, but feel free to join into the chat or just post in the chat. And then, Anna, do you want to start off by maybe dropping that information in the chat for people about the metadata that Lisa shared? And then, Lisa, you can give a little introduction. Who are you? What has been your journey in music, and what led you here today?
So, hello, and I recognize a few faces, and it's really nice for you guys to show up. And Pandion is such an amazing group, and so I'm here mainly because I want to support this nonprofit who does such great work for artists. And I don't consider myself like an expert in metadata, but I do have a love of doing it properly. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like what I bring to most of the collaborations that I'm in. I do the metadata, the artwork, the paperwork, um, because I like having everything organized and tickety-boo. So yeah, so I'm here to just share what I've learned and kind of hopefully streamline some of what people are, maybe learning for the first time so that you guys don't have too much of a struggle. So
Great.
I did include a Canadian source for ISRC, but I'm sure there's some American ones. And if there are people here that do have a contact for ISRCs in the States, maybe you could share that in the chat. The one that I use gives you a code that is yours and only yours, and then you just generate new codes according to the year and the number of the track and etc. Um, there's just a short little Dropbox link for kind of resources in general that should be included in your metadata, and then some alternate sources of software that you can use if you prefer not using Disco, or if you don't have a Disco account. There's Apple Music is kind of the most popular one just because it's free and everybody can access it. And yeah, so I've just included that in the chat. But I basically, I'm in BC. I have been writing my own music since 2012, but mainly for my blues band, which is where I started at the ripe age of 41. And basically, when my bands kind of petered out a little bit due to my guitar player not being able to perform live, I started to write under my own name and focus on that. And that was in about 2018. 2019, I took six-figure songwriting course with Kathy Heller, met a whole bunch of people in that community, and kind of was able to expand my contacts all across the States and other countries, which was really cool. And a lot of us were still meeting through COVID um, for happy hours and things like that. So a lot of us have stayed connected. And so I basically, I met somebody, Michael Averill, and I don't know how many people are familiar with that name, but he was in Vancouver at the time, but we met in LA for the first time, and I kind of globbed onto him. He's a fantastic songwriter and facilitator of writing music, and I started joining his little Zoom workshops all through COVID, and I was writing 3 to 4 songs a week. And so I had to kind of collect producers so that I could fish out songs. And so I have probably about 200 songs in my catalog at this point. Not a lot of releases, because releases is something I'm not very good at. But I do have a handful on Spotify and all the streaming um, resources. But I basically have been, yeah, working within the sync world since 2019, and have tried very hard to educate myself as much as possible before I even started pitching my music, and joined the guild, and attended all the guild sessions that were being offered online and things like that. So, and I've made the effort to go down to LA a few times to Durango Songwriting Expo and Sing Summit and other networking events that happen throughout the year. And yeah, so I'm here
Oh,
just to share whatever I can to help people out. But feel
thank you.
free, if you guys, I know there's some experienced people in here as well. And if you guys know something or want to add something, please, feel free to speak up. Hi, Marcus. Speak up or add in anything that I may have missed or that you think is important.
Thank you. And I also just wanted to point out for anyone who doesn't know at all what metadata is, it's still, this is important. It's the term is used a lot in the sync industry, but it is important even if you're not working in the sync world, and just creating music as an artist and releasing your own music. It's still very important to know what metadata is, have it within your music. It's essentially just like I like to think of it as like a social security number for your songs. And it's just that information that's encoded so that anyone can track you down if they find your song. Like if a random person comes upon your song and doesn't know you, they can find you. Um,
And
and
more importantly, your pros can find you once you've registered your song with your pro.
yeah,
Um, your pros are going to be able to track that music and pay you whatever
yes,
royalties you're
yes,
owed. So that's really important. And the more metadata or the more specific you can get with your metadata, the better. And that is specific, or particularly with supervisors, because they don't want to have to do a lot of work on their end to track you down or to find out the splits or um, whatever information might be missing. So hopefully when we're done, you'll have pretty thorough metadata. So I guess I could start by kind of showing an example of
Yeah.
one of my tracks that I have permission to share. Um, and can everybody see my screen? Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Thumbs
Thank you.
up. Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is working within Disco, and the link to Disco was also added into that chat information that was put in the chat there for you, so that Disco is very good with their own resources for adding metadata and all the things that you might need to do within the system. Essentially, Disco is like a Dropbox or a Box kind of file folder sharing platform, but a lot of supervisors are now using this almost exclusively just because it is really clean, really visual, easy to manage and easy to share because people can um, download your tracks directly into their disco folder. And a lot of times supervisors don't have the time to sit and listen at that moment that you are sending them a link. And sometimes they will just download it into their system. And your metadata, where it comes in handy here, is that the more specific and the more things that you can add that will come up in a search, the more likely that track will show up in their catalog. So if they're looking for a dark track, or if they're looking for a trailer, if they're looking for whatever the keywords are that you add. So for this particular thing, I brought in kind of a master's list. So over here in the channels, which is kind of like your your file cabinet. And in your channels, you create these folders. And I have a master playlist for what I usually create as I get new tracks in my disco. I create a master playlist, which would include the full version, which is with the vocal and the instrumental together. And then any alt versions. So for this one, it's a trailer. So I have two other trailer versions that are here where the endings are different. And basically the title should just be the name of the track. And if it is an alt version, you can include like whatever, a remix or whatever it is that it makes it different in there. Instrumental, well, as far as I'm concerned, most supervisors want an instrumental all the time, and that is for editing purposes. So whenever you get a song produced, you want to ask for an instrumental master as well. I often get a cappella as well, or a what they call a TV mix, or it's a mix of the instrumental plus the vocalese or background vocals. And that allows supervisors to edit around dialogue or to have more dynamics if they want to adjust the volume of certain things and that kind of thing. If you're working with ads, you would have stems as well. I don't have the stems in here because my producer kind of houses them, but some tracks that I own 100% of, I will have the stems as well. Then I also include a one stop, and if it's repped, I'll have the rep contract as well, and then the artwork in the playlist. So that kind of goes over the whole playlist. Then if you click on here, you can edit your track information. This is kind of the metadata field where I fill everything out. I usually work within Disco directly, but you again can use Apple Music or anything else if you don't have this particular format. But the title is really key. You definitely need that. And it should be clean. It's just the title name, nothing else in there, other than if it's an instrumental version or a remix or a cappella, that kind of thing. Your artist name, in this case, my name is my artist name, but you may have a moniker, a name that you've made up, that would be your artist name. And that's how people are going to search you down as the artist. This would be your album information or album title. For this particular track, it's a single, so I put a single in there. It might be an EP. So you decide on if it's a single or an album, EP, etc. Composer, at the very least, names are very good to have in there for your composer, lyricist, writers. However, it's being split up. I always try to include my pro information for Canada at SOCAN. UK, he had a PRS, and then there's also BMI, ASCAP. There's a whole bunch of them, but basically, whatever your pro numbers are, I try to include that in there, and the names of the people. I typically I add the splits in the comment section. In the grouping, if it is a one-stop, which means they only need to contact one of the writers to get clearance on the track. This is specific for sync. It just makes it easier for the supervisor that when they see it's one stop, it's kind of like a gold star thing that they look for if it is, but it doesn't have to be one stop. It might be easy clear, meaning everybody more or less agrees, but you need to check with your other writers first. But yeah, at one stop or whatever the situation is, you can put that in the grouping. This S stands for song and the M stands for master. And if you have a production company or a publishing name you want to put in there, you can do that if it's you that's signing off. Genre, I usually stick to about 3 at the most for genre in here, but if as long as it applies, you can add it in. If you are planning to release it, you would put your release date in here, which I don't have a date yet because I told you I'm terrible at releases. The year is the year that it was created, so that they, sometimes they ask for tracks that were created in such and such a year or, 1980s or that kind of thing. So they will look for that information. The order of the track is just kind of how many versions of that track there are. So this is the first of 4. And then I put the writers' names, the splits according to the writing and publishing splits. So, I mean, there are different ways of doing this. In a 3-way, typically, 2 writers would do the 33 and 1 would do the 34, just so you're not dealing with decimal points and things like that. But there are definite ways you can split it in a different way. But in this particular case, this is an agreement that we all made that we would just, rotate the 34% on other tracks and that kind of thing. So the contact information is really key in this comment section. So make sure you have at least an email, phone number if you're okay with that. And then I usually put the publisher information in here. Just because it's more visible than in the grouping section. You could put it in the grouping section, but it's more visible right up front for the supervisor when they open up the page. So I usually put the publishing information in there. If you are doing more than one track in your master playlist and you've got, the instrumental, whatever versions you've got, you can go to the bottom here and copy track info and say from this track, and it will bring this track up and all of the metadata, and you can click on things that you want to include or not include, take things off. But basically you would put in a search, and this one already pops up all these versions, and you would add all.
Oh, I didn't even know you could do that on there. That's awesome.
So now this comes up because it has the word run in it. You can always remove these. Obviously, I don't need the PDF and things like that. So the artwork I don't need. So you would just make sure whatever versions you want to copy the metadata to, you would leave in this list. Make sure the right things are checked off. Like not everything you might not want the tags included for everything, because the tags may be different for the instrumental, that kind of thing. Um, so depending on what you want to include, you leave it on there, and then you would say copy to 5 tracks, and it would overwrite whatever it is and add all the artwork, everything that you want. So that's a way to do it in bulk if you want to do that. The other thing that I learned later, which was quite handy, is if for some reason you have an updated version, a remix, something done where you want to replace um, or add it to. So you would go to manage. Well, let's see. It's a little bit different than it was. Yeah, so if I have a new AIF file, you can replace that and then drag and drop that new track in, and it will replace the new version. And then you would do that for each of the versions. And Disco automatically creates an MP3 whenever you drop a track in. So I highly recommend you have those AIFF versions as your masters go into Disco initially, so that because only AIFF and MP3 versions carry the metadata, WAV files do not. So if you have a WAV file, I don't know, can you guys see down at the bottom of my screen? Does this new screen come up for you, the switch?
No, I only see your main disco
Okay,
page.
so there is a software called Switch.
Hmm.
Switch Plus is what it says at the bottom here. And it will convert your files from WAV to AIFF if you need it to do that. If you only have a WAV version and you want to create an AIFF that is equal in terms of the integrity of the track, um, then you
I
can
believe there's
convert your.
also a way you can do it on disco. Um, I think you can in the settings you can say like make
Mm,
available in AIFF MP3 or WAV, and you can like choose the different versions.
okay.
I
And
can't
the
remember exactly where you do that. I think you
I'm going to go into my settings just because I wanted to show this as well. So um, in your settings, you have business settings where you can choose what you want to display on your metadata and information when you're sharing. I have this ticked off because it says we'll write native tags to comments in the metadata field upon downloading tracks. So what that does is when you are, I'm going to go back to browse. When you are in here, when the person receives, they will get the tags in this comment section. And I'm going to show you. So the other thing that's really great to have in your metadata is on the second tab is your lyrics. And that goes for Apple Music as well. You can enter your lyrics in there as well. Um, I didn't do it for this one, but I often will put chorus at such and such a timestamp, bridge at such and such a timestamp. because sometimes music supervisors skip through tracks quite quickly. And if there's a key part of the song you want them to see or hear, um, that's just an easy way for them to kind of forward onto the WAV file where to listen to those pieces. Um, I usually label verse one, pre, that kind of thing, so they know what the lyrics are for each section. This is something that doesn't necessarily have to transfer. It's more for your own information on the writers and their prose. I usually put the master split in here, and then you would save. Tags is very important. So tags are, there's drop downs for each of these sections: genre, instrument, instruments used, lyrical themes, mood and feel, tempo, type, and vocal. And so over here is where you would add your tracks. You can hover over one of those subheadings, and there's a drop down for all the different types of genre. Now, I have also created tags over time for a few that just weren't in there. Um, Maybe for instrument you have didgeridoo or something that's not going to just show up in the drop down. You can add that in. You can create your own tags. I'll show you in a second how to do that. Tempo, if it's kind of almost like perspective, like where somebody else's opinion might be a little bit different than yours, like it's in a range that could be mid-tempo, but it's close to a faster tempo, which is kind of around 120-ish. I tick on both just so that it might fall into either of those if they're searching. For type, I usually put a one stop if unless it's a cover. It's a one stop for most of my collaborators. I also added this as a custom tag because I am a Canadian artist, and some people are looking for Canadian artists particularly, or sometimes they're looking for people in LA. So you might want to put LA artist, or female producer is another one that you may want to add in because, or, there's LGBTQ artists, things like that. If it's not in there and it applies to you, it may be good to add that as a custom tag just because supervisors are specifically looking for those particular things all the time. Um, for vocals, if it's an instrumental, I will simply put instrumental for the version. But basically, you're going to tick off anything that applies. So background vocals, in this particular trailer, we have a choir vocals, female vocals, male vocals, um, and for instruments, again, you're gonna go through the long list they have there. If things are not there that you know are part of your track, you would customize. So managing tracks is where you would customize, and you would do a search. If it's not in the search, then you can add the track tag to your disco and it will stay there. So it's now part of your drop down all the time. So once you create something, it doesn't leave your disco. So you can use it again if it comes up again. And then I'm just going to go back to browse. And then I have not used the custom, and you do need a pro version for this. I don't use this section, but what I do in the notes is I usually include all of this comments information. I copy it in there as well. And this just, you can make it visible for the supervisor that is going, so clients will be able to see this note.
Mm. Also, remember to save each of those tabs, the metadata, lyrics,
Yeah.
writer.
So when you're working in here, you have to save. Like if you exit out of this page and you haven't saved, it's not going to save that information. You'll have to start over.
I've done that
So
before.
yeah. Well, I've done it by accident where the mouse just slips and you know,
Yeah.
leaving that page. So as you're doing it, like wherever possible, if you're working with the same writers, same splits, whatever, I've gone into past tracks and just copy pasted this information or just made small changes if the splits are different, that kind of thing. You can easily just kind of copy paste what applies and then tweak it. Once you have one, usually I work with the full version first. Once you have one the way you want it, then you can do the copy track info and then just make small changes for the tags for the instrumental. I would just go in and delete the vocal part and just put instrumental in. And I would take out the lyrical themes because there's no lyrics in the instrumental. Make sense?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions so far? Feel free to
Yeah.
raise your hand if you want or just pop in. Oh, Taylor's got a question.
Yeah,
Taylor,
hi. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Thanks, Lisa. I had a question because I've been like gathering all of my metadata on a Google Doc to like put it all
Yeah.
in Disco first.
Yeah.
So one is I'm wondering, do you have a recommendation for like having that in a spreadsheet versus a Google Doc, or that
So
doesn't really matter as long as you have it somewhere?
I do. So let me see how I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I'm going to share something different. I use Excel as my spreadsheet. Um, and so this is what mine looks like. So I'll have, again, this, you can do it however you want to do it. I just do it in this because it comes with the table already kind of made. But the title of the song, the writers, the prose, the split percentages, the publisher splits, percentages, the tempo. I have the link to the master playlist for most of these. I haven't done them all yet, but so I've created the disco link that takes me right to that playlist. Is it registered with my pro? I make sure I've got that information. And if it's repped by an agency, then I've put that in there so that I know which tracks are in a non-exclusive or an exclusive contract. And I'm not accidentally sending it and sharing it with somebody else. And I also, if it is repped by somebody, I usually put that information into the metadata. This track actually was fairly recently picked up, so I haven't added that in, but I would put in Unicorn Sync for this particular track, and I would put their contact in the metadata as the contact person so that they know they need to go through that agency and not just through me. So that's kind of what I
Okay,
do.
cool. Okay, cool. Thanks. And the other thing I was wondering, which I think you just answered, but just to double check, as far as the one area that I find challenging in gathering the metadata is the keywords. But from what I just saw, it
Mm.
looks like in Disco, do they have things that you're like a master list you're selecting from? And then you
So they
can
do. So
create
I'm
like
going to go back
custom.
in there. So in the tags, they do have a master list or a drop down for each of these things. If you
Okay.
hover over each subcategory, there is a
Yeah.
full drop down that goes in alphabetical order. Um, and then you can also do a search where the mouse is hovering right here. You can also do a search for words if you feel like you're not seeing something. And again, manage tags. You can create your own custom tags and have them added to your catalog. The other thing that I do right away, usually because I have this feature in my disco, is auto tag. And I don't know if some of you are familiar with that, but let me just show you. I'm trying to make my screen bigger. So over here, there's auto tag tracks. And if I was to drag a track over, here, I'm just going to go over here. All of these have been auto tagged in some way. So basically what it does is it's the system that will create the tempo tag, the some of the keyword tags. It's fairly a small sample of metadata that you get out of that, but sometimes it's a good way to start. Like if you're not sure what genre, that's always kind of a tricky one for me. So if you're not sure about the genre where it might fit, sometimes if you put it through auto tag, it may give you some options that work. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes I find that they're not what I would choose. So I always go back in and double check them or take off ones you don't think work. I I always joke that disco always puts my vocal as a male vocal because I'm singing an octave down often in the harmonies. So it just automatically hears it as male. And so I often have to untag that. So it's not perfect, but it is a great way to kind of have a start for your metadata. And then you can go in and fill it up with your other tags and things like that that you think apply to your track.
Great, thanks.
Thank you for the questions. I also just wanted to say about PROs, because I've been seeing a couple questions in here. Always sign up with a PRO immediately before you release any songs, before you put songs out anywhere, sign up with a PRO or you will not be paid any royalties for your music. So there's also mechanical licensing organizations, if people are unaware, the MLC. In the US, I think maybe it's more territories than that, but I know for the US, that's mechanical licensing is like streaming and stuff like that. Just make sure to do your research beforehand. If you have questions, please ask us about that kind of thing. Because we want artists to get paid. There's billions of dollars that don't get paid out to artists because they don't sign up with these organizations. I wish it was easier and I wish that like anytime you made music, it would just automatically the money would be paid to the artist, but you do have to register with these organizations and make sure all your boxes are checked in order to get paid royalties. So yeah, there's lots of different PROs depending on your region. Like Lisa, what did you say is for the main one for Canada? Is that
SOCAN.
SOCAN? Yeah.
SOCAN, yeah. And SOCAN is, and PRS, I believe, is the same in the UK, where we only have one number for our writer and our publisher because they collect for us. But I do think you can request a separate publishing number if you prefer to have both.
SOCAN is a PRO, Nika just asked.
Yeah.
So
So
PRO
SOCAN
stands
is
for
your PR.
Performance Rights Organization. So there's different performance rights organizations depending on your region. SOCAN is the one, a big one for Canada. PRS is the UK. There's BMI and ASCAP in the US. There's other ones as well, but those are the main ones. And it's probably beneficial to sign up with one of the big ones because those, I mean, making sure that you get all the money. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't heard of any artists signing up for smaller ones, but I think that there probably are those out there.
I just added in the names of other places that are really great for resources and information and panel events and things like that. Guild of Music Supervisors, there is an LA and a New York one, and there is also a Canadian one. And then Sona is another
Cool.
place to go for great information and resources for anything regarding sync licensing. So,
Cool.
and
We
and
also
they
have
often have conferences you can either attend online or in person, things like that. So,
great. Pandion also created a little like music industry term sheet. I just put the link in the chat. So if anyone's like, what still confused what a PRO is, or what's the MLC, what's a split sheet, those kinds of things, we have as many of those questions answered as we could on there. If there's anything that you still have questions about, again, just let us know and we can help out. And this is like, again, important for any artist, regardless of whether or not you're in the sync licensing industry. If you're just making music for fun, or if you're releasing music and you're not just keeping it on your own laptop, then definitely do all of this stuff. Add metadata to your tracks, sign up with PROs. And the other thing I wanted to clarify, because we've been getting some questions about this recently, there are different, so in the streaming world and like music library, I guess, I don't know what you would call disco necessarily, because disco's not necessarily a streaming app, but anywhere that you put music so that other people can hear it, there's different types of those companies. So for instance, like Bandcamp, I don't know if you all know Bandcamp or SoundCloud.
Yeah.
Those are user run websites that you go on there and manually put your music directly onto their platform yourself. There's other platforms like Spotify. You can't go onto Spotify and upload your music directly to Spotify. You have to go through another organization that does that for you, which is called a distributor. So it's kind of confusing, and you do have to like look at each one and figure out, how do I get my music onto Spotify? Oh, okay, I have to go to this other place and get them to send it out. So the same thing with Apple Music. You can go on iTunes and you can upload music on there. You can add metadata yourself. But for Apple Music, if you want it in this big streaming world, you have to go through a distributor. Distributors are like CD Baby, DistroKid, those companies that you send your music to them, and then they send it out to all the big, huge streaming platforms that don't let you do it manually. So when you're talking about metadata and making sure that each of those places has your song with the metadata included, if you're sending your music to Spotify and you're going through a distributor like DistroKid, for example, you give DistroKid your metadata. So when you go and upload your song onto DistroKid, they're going to ask you, I don't even think you can do that without giving them the information, because they'll ask you, like, what year was this created? What's your artist name? What's all this information? That's your metadata. You're giving it to them. They're embedding it in the track for you, and then they're sending it to Spotify, to Apple Music, to Deezer, to all those bigger, huge streaming platforms. But like
and they're also asking,
that yourself.
or if you've got a collaborator, they will take the shares automatically and give them to your collaborating partners. So you have a way to invite those partners into the DistroKid email release kind of thing, so that they are included in that. And now you can also, which I do like, kind of add liner notes in DistroKid, where you can add in who your producer is, who the vocalist, like you can add those kind of liner notes that you would have on a typical LP when we were the older people that it might be in the room. That I used to love looking at all that information, and a lot of that is missing from the streaming stations now. So yeah, you can do that as you upload onto DistroKid. But yeah, as Lori said, it's really important to get it done the first time. It's not easy to go back and change things after the fact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, iTunes is not a distributor. They're another, digital music service.
yeah.
The Sherry just asked, is it true if you can use a distributor to help with sync possibilities for a song? I have seen that they ask you that at the end, like when you're uploading songs, do you want us to represent your song for you? I wouldn't recommend doing that through your distributor. They're not going to work for you. They're not going to care about you and your song in that way, I don't think. Unless in the future, maybe they have like maybe will be distributors that have a focus on that more. There actually is one, I think, is it Ditto? There's one that does focus more on sync licensing. You can maybe look it up, and I believe it might be Ditto, but
Yeah, like CD Baby think asks about the
They ask
representation.
that, but they do
And
lock you. I actually accidentally did that with one of my
yeah,
songs a while ago because I didn't know what that meant. And I just checked, I was like, sure, might as well check off all the boxes. And then I was like, it was a 5 year, essentially. They were like, oh, we're representing this song for 5 years now. And I had to email them and go through this huge process in order to
yeah.
let them like get me out of that. And so I would recommend you just focus on sync licensing agencies. Go through them for sync licensing stuff. Don't do it through your distributor because you might be locked into contracts that you're not aware of, which is kind of frustrating that they do that without making it very clear on the distributor sites. But
The other thing is they give you an option of YouTube and things like that, and then
yeah.
also like how long you want the track to like if you want a legacy, like meaning it stays up there forever, you know, there's an extra charge for that kind of thing. But yeah, and they also usually ask for an ISRC when you're uploading to a distributor, meaning when it's released, they want that code in there so that they can track that music for you to get your royalties. So that's where the ISRC comes in. If you're pitching to a supervisor, you might not need that number right away, but if it does get licensed, they're going to ask for an ISRC code
Mm-hmm.
for that to be aired on the
Yeah,
TV or.
so Lisa, so that link that you provided for the ISRC codes, was that because you haven't released your music? Because distributors assign ISRC codes if you're releasing your music to
If they will, yeah, they will assign one if you don't already have one. I usually
Yes.
have one, so
Okay,
I just put mine in there.
cool.
But the what I added for that Connect Music, which is the place where I have my ISRC in Canada, is just an email address for you to contact somebody there if you wanted to.
Cool.
Um,
Great.
yeah, but it's called Connect
Scott has a question.
Music.
I'm gonna Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi.
hey.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your presentation today. It was good. It was very informative.
Thanks.
So we have a couple of songs that have multiple non-exclusive sync agencies. So,
Mhm.
um, uh, one we gave it to, and then we gave it to somebody else. I know you had that listing of which sync agency represents you. I guess you would say the one you want them to contact rather than two of them, and it may not be a good idea to say you have three or four of them, right? Or what?
Well,
And it may not be a good idea to do three or four. I don't know. What's your
yeah, I tend to only have tracks repped by one agency at a time, and that for that reason, because it does get confusing over like who does that track, you know, who gets the little bit of the pie, right? When you're getting
right?
that track licensed. Um, yeah, I think, it's unless they're the ones reaching out and they're the ones doing the contact, then obviously they're the ones that are gonna be repping. But if you're the one pitching and you've got it repped by two different groups, it's probably not a good idea to have it with more than one agency. So
Even
if
if
you're
it's not
pitch,
exclusive.
even if it's not exclusive, because
Yeah. Okay.
it's confusing to the sync agents and the supervisors that are trying to license where to go.
Okay. The other question I had is, when we sign with these agencies, the guy that I work with who's registering everything and doing everything, he says, let's put it in our PRO. And usually these agents that we're working, most of these ones we're working with right now, they're going to take the publishing. So we would just register as the writers, I guess, right? And then they'll take the publishing.
It's different for every agency what the percentages are in terms of the share.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just really depends on who you're working with, what percentage they end up taking out. And that's up to you to decide if you're
I
good
mean,
with that.
if we had our own publishing company, so let's say we're a writer and a publisher, and I'm with ASCAP. Um, and I put my publishing in there and my writer registration in there, and then the sync agency does it. Some of these sync agencies I've heard about retitling. We haven't had that happen yet, but can you address that?
Okay, so I'll do my best. And I know there's some people in here that probably can help out, but retitling would happen sometimes in a library situation, and it just helps the agency identify those tracks are theirs. It's another way of them putting their stamp on those songs in their library. But again, if you have them sitting in more than one place, that's where it gets confusing because that title might not match the other title, and things get mixed up. So yeah, my personal opinion is if you're going to have tracks sitting with an agency, I would just kind of maybe house it in one place, not have it, in three different agencies. You can have different songs repped by different agencies, but I wouldn't necessarily have that same song repped by more than one person, just because it gets confusing. But that's my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, everybody does it their own way, but
Can I just
Lori, yeah,
jump in? Hey, Lisa,
Thank
how you
you.
doing, sweetheart?
good.
So this is to Scott. I'm not sure your situation. It's not that typical that like a sync agency will keep your publishing. I would really look into that because they're usually doing it with the master side, that's the recording side. And if you already have it published, I mean, you own it, like it's yours. You have all the rights to the publishing. So if you're going to give it away, make sure that you really understand what you're doing because yeah, I'd be really careful about that. A sync agency that wants to take all of your publishing. It's not that
Okay,
common.
thank
It's
you.
not, and it's not a typical kind of deal. Like Lori said, it's usually the master side that they're right. It's just the master part that they're taking.
And
So
only
you
a
need to
part of
look at
that.
that.
Only a part of that.
Yeah, and only a percentage of that, not all of it. So you may want to have a lawyer look at the document before you sign everything off if you're not sure. But yeah, you want to definitely protect your rights as a writer and a publisher.
And find out how long it's for. I mean, it sends up a red flag to me if they're, especially if you already have it, if you've already registered it, that means they're gonna have to re-register it, and
Right.
you're gonna have two different versions, or it'll bump it out or something. I forget how this happens, but like yeah, I would I talk to a lawyer or just
Yeah.
talk to them and ask them how long is it. Like look at the contract.
Yeah,
Is it
like
forever?
they usually it's very fair to say minimum a year, right? Because you want to give them a chance to do something for you. Um, I would say what typical deals are about 3 years, right, Lori?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you, Lori.
Lori,
Sorry. I got this microphone. I can turn it on and off now. I don't, I mean, I've seen 5 years, 3 years, 8 years in perpetuity. Look for the word in perpetuity.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that-
avoid that.
but I think that's saying that they're gonna, that means that they're the only ones that can control the song. That means they have, you don't have any, that's their one stop right then once they take all the publishing. So you've ruled out any other, any non-exclusive deals and stuff like that. So you have to really trust that they're going to work and exploit your song, and I mean exploit in a positive way. But yeah, I'm not sure what kind of company is it? A library or does it a sync agency? Because libraries might do a buyout in that kind of situation. I guess they would have the.
No, it's sync agents, and one crucial is 3 years, I think, and
Crucial.
the other ones, I forget well,
Okay,
the
Crucial.
other ones are 1 year.
Crucial
so
has
they
a
got
good
they got-
reputation.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was gonna
Crucial,
say they're reputable.
Woman-owned.
yeah,
She's really cool. Yeah, Crucial's a different situation, and a lot of people have been really successful. So great if you're in Crucial.
Yeah.
And 3 years is fine because then that means you could take it out. Just make sure you see what you have to do. It might be like a month before it ends or 3 months before. Make sure you know when it's going to roll around. And if you're happy with them and you're getting, some placements, you could just keep it going. But that just means that that song is kind of out of your roster and it's in their roster now. Just know that, you know,
Mhm.
but keep an eye
For
on
the
your.
bigger, I think for like the bigger agencies like Crucial that are reputable, I've heard people say, you know, if it's like, yeah, if it's a big company like that that's worth having your song signed in, then maybe it is worth having um a more exclusive contract as long as it's not like in perpetuity or not like some crazy long thing. But yeah, if you're willing to give up your song to them for a few years. But yeah, like Lori said, I don't know if they do this, but make sure that they're not like automatically renewing it
No.
after whatever, because you might like just forget about the song.
Yeah, usually there's some kind of thing in there that you need to either take your song out of their catalog, you know, within a window before the date that it renews, or, you know, you have 90 days until your song is out of their catalog or whatever it is. It'll specify that in the language of the contract. But I lost what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say that, like, in what I've done with the few tracks that are kind of under an exclusive contract, I've thought about like that agency is typically known for or as a go-to for certain types of tracks for, you know, say they deal with a lot of hip hop and soul music, or, you know, that they have a specific kind of thing that they're known for. You can kind of do a little bit of research as to the kind of music that they rep, and whether or not, like, I look at if I have tracks that are kind of in a very niche genre that you know, I don't have a lot of supervisor contacts that, you know, may deal with that music. I might use that track to go to an exclusive contract if because that supervisor is a go-to for that genre and may have more chances of getting that particular song
Yeah.
synced or licensed.
And that might be an argument even for smaller more indie agencies that have a smaller roster, so they might be able to put more effort into your song rather than a large company that has tons of songs they're working with. But it's like give and take kind of thing. It's hard to know what the best route is. Every artist does it differently and finds success through different routes. So it's really what you want to do, what you think is the best for your music. And like I think Lori mentioned, it's always a good idea if you're struggling or have questions about, especially about contracts, it's worth having a professional like lawyers look at it. Um, it is expensive. There are some agencies out or firms out there I know that would work on sliding scales or are specifically for artists and have lower fees. So you can try to find those if you're needing extra help. Um, but I can't believe we're at the end of our hour already. Oh my gosh, that flew by. There are there might be more questions that people have, so please follow or join our creators circle on Facebook. It's a private Facebook group. Feel free to post questions in there whenever they come up about anything music related or not, if you're just wanting to chat. And
I wanted to mention that
Yeah.
the link to Indies Get Signed and Sync virtual event was put in the chat. That is happening in the next couple of days, and I highly recommend, if you are learning about this world and want to know more information and have some actual agencies that are present, to hear from them directly and hear music that might be something that they're listening to and getting interested in. That is a really great conference. The people are very well informed, and it's a great way to learn and join a community that that you can kind of collaborate with and also get some information from. And then I put in just a few names that I deal with. For Goodness Sync is an exclusive agency. Tamara Bubble runs that one. Unicorn Sync, Elaine runs that one. And What's Up Pitches is an all-female run, non-exclusive as well.
I also just,
So,
if you're into the metadata stuff, I'm going to be on this California Copyright Conference, CCC. If you go to California Copyright Conference, I'm on a panel with people that probably know a lot more than me. I'm like the artist on it, but there's going to be like people from the PROs, I think maybe from Sound Exchange. So they'll get really down into the nitty gritty, hopefully. And that's on
Cool.
April 8th. April 8th. I don't actually know every single detail right now, but
thanks,
Great.
Lori.
Thank you. That's great to know.
Yeah, thanks, Lori.
You're welcome. It's good to see you.
Yeah,
see
good to see everybody. Thank you so much for being here again. If you have any extra questions, if you want to send us an email to ask a personal question, you can do that, or head over to the Facebook group, the Creators Circle, and you can post in the thread there. And yeah, oh, there we go. And I found the link to that.
Yeah, thank you for putting that in so quickly.
Yeah, awesome. She's on it. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Keep an eye out for our upcoming workshop announcement for April. They'll be coming soon. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Jordan.
Here
And
today.
thank you.
Thanks so much,
Bye,
Lisa.
everyone.
Bye.